Third quarter 2025, Fort Lauderdale real estate market update for condos and townhomes. The data's in, and some of it's going to surprise you. Sales are up year over year. It's taking about 75 days to sell a condo or a townhome, and there's 10 months of supply. Buyers, pay attention. This could give you leverage. For the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the data that actually matters. This will help buyers and sellers make a smarter, more informed real estate decision in Fort Lauderdale. So let's dive in. Real estate market update for Fort Lauderdale. Condos and townhomes, end of third quarter 2025. Let's get into the data. Median sold price, $430,500. Those of you that have not watched a lot of my videos, I don't put much weight into median sold price. We just have way too divergent of property types here in Lauderdale. I mean, you got stuff west of 95, you have intercoastal, and you have beachfront property. These are wildly different price points. So you can use this if you want, but based on the number of sales and the types of real estate that we have here, again, I don't put a lot of stock in it. If you wanted to, you can see how zigzaggy this chart is. Kind of tough to surmise much of anything from it, but we were at 485,000 this time last year, down to 430,500 if you wanted to use it, but I don't think you should. On to something that does really matter a whole lot. How many properties are actually selling, right? So here's a little bit of a surprise. Year over year, let's go back here. September of 24, 102 sales. We're up to 138 sales. So if you're in the doom and gloom campaign that still thinks condos and townhomes are cratering in South Florida, because that's what the news says, not really the case in Lauderdale. I mean, look, we've been bouncing around between 100 and 200 sales for a couple of years now. I just think that's what our market is. I think it's slower than COVID. Sure, look it up here. We're up around 400 sales. I mean, that was just insane. This is more a normal market. If we could look left on this chart, you'd see that. This is just kind of what we've looked like for a long time. So what do I see when I look at this 138 sales? Again, I see things aren't as bad as some people think they are, but they're definitely not crazy go wild COVID times. This is just more of a normalized condo market for Fort Lauderdale. List to sales price ratio. For those of you that are new to this, if you are a buyer, you want this number to be low because it's going to show you that you have a lot of room to negotiate. If you're a seller, you want this number to be high. What this number represents is from the original listing price, not price reductions that happen from within or down the line, but the original listing price. This is the price that a property sold off of its original listing price. So what this tells us at about, let's call it 94%, is that properties on the whole selling about 6% off list. So if you're expecting to get 15% off list, probably a tough task. If you're a seller and you're expecting everybody to pay full list, probably a tough task. You know, look, this shows there is negotiation. The chart has been trending down. I think if you kind of drew a line here, you would see we're in a downtrend line. I think that's fair. I do think that if you're selling a condo or a townhome, you have the ability to sell now, but you don't have the ability to sell at aspirational pricing. So if your pricing is off a, if I give you a parameter that your property may sell in and you go to the top of that parameter, pretty likely it isn't going to sell unless there's some kind of crazy bell and whistle. You need to be realistic with pricing, and then once you're realistic with pricing, you have to expect that people are still going to negotiate off it. The list price is just an invitation to get people to come to your home and make an offer. So the sale price, that's after the invitation. That's what really matters, right? On to another slide that matters a lot, median days on market. This is how many days a property was active on the market, the time it went from active to pending, not the time it went from pending to close. So it has taken 75 days on average to get a condo or a townhome to go from the day it hits the market until the day you get a contract accepted. So look, we're looking 2.5 months. That's realistic. So if you put your house on the market or your condo or townhome on the market and 30 days later you're really nervous because you've got no offers, it's probably not something to be that nervous over. It was just that you set an expectation of the market a little bit poorly. I believe that this time last year, this 47 days, this was an anomaly. I believe I made a video back around that time where I was saying that. It just didn't make sense to me. It was, I think, a bunch of 0-day pre-construction stuff got loaded in and the zeros dragged down the totals, because if you look overall, the trend has been up. Has this trend peaked? I'm going to be honest. You might get me into that camp. I might be starting to think so. And the reason why is because I think a lot of sellers are now realistic about pricing and what they have to do in order to get a property sold. So I think the more of the reality that's worked its way through the market, that will help with median days on market, because people are going to come to market priced at appetizing levels where a buyer is going to say, well, yeah, I don't have to keep looking. I like this one. Let me step in. And that's what you're looking for as a seller, right? Median price per square foot. Again, don't put a lot of stock in this. I'm going to show it to you. But look, hey, here we are. We've been relatively level here. A couple of years. Not much going on there. Again, you know, the nicer stuff is selling. People are paying more for the nicer stuff. But not at all applicable, because if you tell me you want to buy something beachfront for $375 a foot, it's a tough sell, man. Tough sell. You tell me you want to buy something west of 95 for $375 a foot, let's go shopping. So, look, that's why I say it's not really applicable in Lauderdale. So, kind of skip over that. Let's move on to another stat that I don't really put much value into, and that's total dollar volume. Here we are once again, level the last couple of years. This stat can easily get thrown if a couple of pre-construction buildings start loading sales into here, which there's a lot of condos and townhomes now selling pre-construction along the beach that in the next coming months are going to be loaded in here. We're going to see a spike in volume at some point as a lot of those sales get recorded. But that's why I tell you not to put a whole lot of weight into this slide. But now let's finish things off with the one slide that I do tell everybody to pay a whole lot of attention to. The one slide that if you show me this slide more than anything else, I'll tell you what the real estate market is doing in a given area. Months of supply. What matters more than supply and demand? Seriously, right? All right, so look, the more supply that there is, the better it is for buyers. The less supply there is, the better it is for sellers. So if you're a seller, you want to be down here. You're a buyer, you want to be up here. I had been warning sometime around back here that what was going to happen were sellers were going to get fatigued. They were going to pick up their ball and say, I want to go home. I don't like what the market's doing. I'm not going to participate. And that, my friends, is what's been happening. Supply has been coming down. It is a tough market for sellers of condos and townhomes. I mean, there's some bright spots, but overall, it is a very challenging market if you're a seller of a condo or a townhome in Fort Lauderdale right now. Now, 6 months of supply is considered market neutral nationwide, which says 6 months of supply favors neither buyers nor sellers. Less than 6 months of supply favors sellers. More than 6 months of supply favors buyers. By all accounts, we are firmly in a buyer's market for condos and townhomes in Lauderdale. Is the sky falling? No. You're not really going to get me to buy that. Are there some good deals out there? Sure there are. Is it a good time to be a buyer? Honestly, I think so. I think you can negotiate pretty well on a lot of properties, a lot of well-located properties, and get what I think you'll look back in 5-10 years and say, that was a pretty good deal. I do think that stuff's happening. Look, we're geographically constrained in Lauderdale. In case you haven't driven around, there isn't a whole lot of room left to build on. Vacant land is non-existent. So what you have is what exists. And if you knock it down and you put something else up, it just gets more expensive. So look, that's my quick elevator pitch here for you. Please give me a call, 786-443-7203 if you would like to talk more about real estate. You can email me if you really don't feel like calling me. We can grab a coffee or a cocktail. It's probably the best way to get to know one another. But please don't be shy. Go ahead and reach out to me some way. Keep this in mind. Biggest mistake a buyer makes, paying too much for a property when they purchase. Biggest mistake a seller makes, leaving too much money on the table when they sell. My clients don't make those mistakes. So let's go. Become one of my clients. We'll see you guys next quarter.